What is up, everybody, and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at this Shirogorov Custom Division Hati. This knife is super sick and has a lot of unique features compared to some other Shirogorovs that we're going to be taking a look at today. So, first of all, let's go ahead and just sort of jump into the aesthetics. The Hati, of course, is the frame lock version of their knives that has a non-titanium scale and a titanium lock side. Now, I'm sure there's sort of variations of that as you get into the custom world with things like Damascus and whatnot, but generally that's what you're looking at. So you can see on the frame side, we've got some beautiful seashell milling with some really deep sort of bronze opal. You know, it interacts with your hand oils, the anodizing. And, you know, the thing that really sets the custom divisions apart is just the level of detail that you get. You can see the milling is really on point, and you've got all kinds of sort of added shapes here. You can see this cool little section cut out between the lock bar and the frame, kind of matched on this side. We are looking at copper pivot collars around titanium pivots. Bit of a cutout there. See some 3D milling on our hidden hardware clip. This clip shares the features that I personally first saw on the F95R. They might have done it on some custom divisions before that, but this clip style has made it to the F95R. See, we've got a titanium backspacer, bit of a hidden lanyard hole in the back there. As we come to the show side, you'll see that continued high detail milling in the copper dust carbon fiber, which presumably comes from carbon plate. Very subtle, that milling in there. The Shirogorov bear milled in right there. And then if we take a look at this blade, it is S90V, and you can see we have that normal sort of working finish on the flats there. On the bevel, the flat grind, but we do have a pretty high polish here on the flats. You can see it's not quite a mirror, but it's pretty close. Super high polished satin. And you can see here we are looking at a very interesting blade cutout. Part of it is cut all the way through, part of it is not. Interesting shape. I know a lot of people are curious about the effectiveness of the hole in terms of finger flicking. So the reality is you can reverse finger flick pretty easily. You can mess it up from time to time. It's not quite like a spidey hole. You can see there I'm slipping a little bit. So it's a little bit harder to gain that leverage, but once you sort of figure out the sweet spot for your finger, it's pretty consistent. And it's definitely been my favorite, like my most enjoyable method of deploying the knife since I've had it on loan. Oh, this knife is on loan, by the way, from Heels with Steel. It's going to be Mike. He sent a ton of super sick knives, and you guys are going to be seeing those coming up in the next few weeks. And as far as the action is concerned, we are on, I believe, single row barrel bearings, roller bearings. Yep. So you can see there the notation. And as far as the roller bearings are concerned, it's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if I prefer them compared to regular bearings. They certainly have a stability and smoothness to them that is pretty unique, but I don't know. They definitely, I think it would be fair and accurate to say that they make the action slightly more hydraulic, but they do slow it down a little bit. And so it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you like a really fast drop shot action, I do think, and of course this is assuming all other things equal, right? You can do bearings poorly and any bearing would be bad, and you can do bearings well and any bearing would be good. But all other things equal, I think regular bearings you can get a little bit of a faster drop action, whereas with the roller bearings you get a little bit more of just that hydraulic smooth. You can kind of see how slow yet consistent the dropping is of this blade. I think for people that are fans of Shirogorovs, that they're going to really appreciate that action. You can see with using the flipper tab, it fires super hard. Actually, I'd argue harder than a lot of the Shirogorovs that I've handled. So really nice D10 on this one. I believe this particular knife did come from... I think this one is from a Blade Show 2018 batch. I could be wrong about that. Now, in terms of the finger flicking, which we spoke about before, yes, you can reverse finger flick. I personally am not able to thumb flick. Now, I'm not saying that no one's ever done it, but it does not work for me. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, we have seen a few of these custom divisions come across the table now. And I gotta say, this one's probably my favorite. You know, the blade cutout really is a big thing for me. And then, man, I just think they really crush it with this carbon plate, copper dust carbon fiber. It looks super sick. So this knife is very nice. They've got, of course, the milling all through the inside as well. Not on the carbon scale, but definitely on the titanium. And all in all, you know, these knives, custom division's kind of interesting because, you know, the name says custom division, but the truth is the knives aren't customs. You know, there runs anywhere from 100 to 300 knives a piece. You know, sometimes more or less depending on the specific knife, but generally a couple hundred knives is the is around the run number that they do for these knives. And you know, if you're buying it from Shirogorov, if you manage to pick one up from a lottery at a show or something of that nature, then they're 100% worth it. I think this knife is like $1,500 or $1,700, somewhere thereabouts, maybe even $1,300. I'm not. Don't quote me on that. I didn't pay attention when I was at the show what they were actually priced, but there's somewhere in that price point, and it's super worth it at that point because you're really only paying a few $100 more than the next step down. Like if you were going to buy a quote unquote full production Shirogorov from say Recon 1, like a F95, or even like an F95R even. You know, those are what, $900 to $1,000. So for a few $100 more, you can get, I think, a big upgrade because Shirogorov production knives, they're really good. They might be slightly overpriced for what they are, but again, you are sort of buying the brand and all of that. And frankly, if people are willing to pay it, then I don't think it's necessarily overpriced. But you know, you get a really surefire thing when you buy a production Shirogorov. You know that you're getting sort of titanium and, you know, a good blade with good steel, and it's going to be a good workhorse. You know, they make good knives as far as quote unquote knives go. But I feel like if you're looking for that collector style approach, this knife is 100% worth it when you're only talking about a few $100 to upgrade, because the milling that you get is substantial. You get the added collars. I mean, the blade cutout is a super nice touch. There's just so much detail happening. You know, you get the roller bearings and everything if that's something that you prefer. And so I totally think it's worth it. However, when you look at the secondary market for these knives, it's really absurd. Like, these go for anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500, depending on, you know, who's selling and who's buying on any given day. And quite frankly, I think that's absurd. I think for that amount of money, you know, you should be getting a full custom knife, or I don't know, if not, then you should be buying something that's pretty spectacular. And I'm not sold on this knife for that kind of price. The reality is, you know, it's worth what Shirogorov puts on the table price, and I think it's maybe even worth a little bit more. Like, I could totally see somebody like really wanting this knife. Maybe you love Shirogorovs, but you're just a total sucker for blade cutouts, and you just have to have the knife. I could easily see paying somebody on the secondary like $2,000, and that's about it. So that's my opinion on sort of Shirogorov custom division in general. Now that we've had a few knives across the table, and I've gotten to handle more and more at shows and everything, and I've also I'm starting to compare them to their newest competitor, which would be Cultratech. It's really interesting to see what Cultratech can do for the same prices. Well, actually, Cultratechs in general are a little bit more expensive when you get into the nicer materials, but I don't know, I guess this is still just carbon fiber. So yeah, all things equal, definitely some other options on the market now if you're looking for this kind of knife. So again, at table price or even a little bit above table price, I think these are super worth it. I think the upgrade, for example, the upgrade from like an F95 to an F95R, yeah, it might be worth the couple $100 that they asked for it. But you have to really know what you're looking for to see the differences with those knives. It's a lot of mechanical differences and minor milling differences and things like that. And so this, I think, is a substantial upgrade for the price difference, especially if you compare from the base to the R. When you jump into the custom divisions, you're definitely getting a lot of bang for your buck, but I just don't think that those crazy secondary market prices are entirely warranted. So thanks so much to Mike for sending this knife along. It's super sick. I know my buddy Rich, who's local, definitely wanted to check this out, so he got to enjoy it as well. We're very thankful for that. Thank you all so much for watching. Of course, if you'd like to see beautiful pictures of this knife, you can do so by following me on Instagram at tovarishworks. And if you'd like to send me an email for any reason whatsoever, you can do so by emailing me at tovarishworks@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.